Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Let's talk about the market, what we are expecting, and especially with Palantir that is up over $43 in the overnight hours on Robinhood. We're going to be talking about this technical pattern that is forming right now in terms of the historical chart and is an all-time high on the table. We also have some incredible bullish news from Wedbush, Dan Ives, coming out here that has typically been bullish on Palantir. We're going to be talking about a statement that he made on the tech stocks in general, what we're seeing for AI demand, ads, and how this is going to affect Palantir in terms of the earnings forecast. Quarter three earnings are coming up here, November 4th, post-market. We have a lot of things ahead of us, and we're going to be talking about the general market in particular, especially with NVIDIA and the other semiconductor chip stocks. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, not a financial advisor, collecting all that data and dispatching it to you. Now pop it up on here. What we're going to be talking about is Palantir at this technical pattern that we're seeing, 42.97. Now we've seen Palantir that's done well above the 40s and has actually been able to consolidate and build a little bit of support. We've seen an important reversal that was triggered right at about that 40, showing resilience in this zone. What we're talking about here is the highest that we've ever seen Palantir is at about 45. And at this point, if we see a little bit of a pullback here, will this be forming a large cup and handle formation, which is typically bullish? A lot of people in bullish perspectives are saying that a new all-time high could be coming if this does play out. And even a pullback here at even $28 to $30, that would be a gift compared to what some people are talking about in terms of entry points. Now, talking about the overnight hours, we have Palantir, it's up another 30 cents basically at 43.25. We also see the general market in stock futures that are in the bullish direction, continuing the rally that we're seeing in the general market. Now, going back to Palantir, and specifically what we've seen with options going into next week, a pretty decent balance actually between the calls and the puts. So it will be interesting to see what happens. However, I think we could see a little bit of bullishness just seeing what we're anticipating right now in terms of overnight hours and what we're seeing in terms of technical patterns that are being created. Now, let's talk about what Wedbush, Dan Ives, came out here talking about the AI and digital ad rebound to help push tech stocks up after a robust Q3 earnings seasons. Now, talking about the AI revolution and a rebound in digital advertising will push stocks higher in the final quarter of the year after this quarter three earning season. And the reason why is because he's saying here, according to the firm, the strength in the cloud isn't limited to the big stops like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Oracle, talking about here that those are foundational cloud stock players. It expects to see incremental strength now from a lot of different stocks in AI and cloud deployments, setting the stage for the second derivative of the AI revolution to take hold. Now, the analyst talking about here said that, NVIDIA, Microsoft, those are core drivers of AI, but they are now being joined by other big tech companies that are doing very well, talking about Oracle, SAP, ServiceNow, and Palantir Technologies, along with Apple. We're seeing an anticipation that deliveries could be better than once expected due to the fact that they have an AI-driven upgrade that takes hold. So specifically, predicting a massive holiday season coming up this year, and with that demand for AI that is continuing to show no signs of slowing down. You even have the CEO of NVIDIA that came out and said that the demand for the new Blackwell chip is insane. That's where you can see Palantir still continuing to develop and expand on its clientele. And it has its earnings coming up here. Remember, November 4th, post-market, we have 11 earnings per share revisions that have been bullish in the last 90 days. Now, one of the biggest criticisms that we should talk about, Palantir is up 162% on the year. And one of the biggest, concerns is its valuation. And with Palantir being a very successful competitor and a leader in the SaaS industry in terms of AI stocks and software that it does develop, business momentum is remaining very strong. And we can see this crediting 2, we have geopolitical uncertainty, which is typically bullish for Palantir. You also have their expansion with AIP that has been incredibly successful and lucrative, and along with also continuing on those governmental contracts. However, the booming commercial business suggests that the reputation of the company is not going anywhere soon. And we're seeing reliance and resilience from Palantir, and also bringing more exposure in the headlines, working with some of the biggest SaaS companies, talking about Microsoft, and working now with Oracle, big partnerships that have been established. But Palantir's valuation, they say here, is hard to justify. And just comparing it here, a forward price to earnings ratio of 100, how it towers over the S&P 500 average of 25. Microsoft trades at a forward price of earnings of 32. With this in mind, yes, Palantir does trade at a high valuation. Just look at this graph right here, at this dot chart, on how Palantir, looking at this compared to different stocks, and that the valuation is very high behind Palantir right now. However, in the short-term position, I'm still remaining bullish on Palantir because the valuation has remained very high, but it's been disconnected from what the price momentum and action has been doing. And on top of that, if you correlate that and couple that with stock futures that are continuing to inch higher after the S&P 500's best weekly streak in 2024, and you have the election that's coming up that's just going to bring more volatility, but we're continuing to see that bullishness. We're seeing S&P 500 and NASDAQ futures, Dow Jones futures rising across the board. And not just Palantir specifically, this week we are seeing roughly 1/5 of the S&P 500 companies are set to report their earnings through Friday. How are all those companies doing? Fairly well when you look at the majority of them. You see here, of the 14% of the S&P 500 companies that have already posted third quarter results, 79% have beaten those expectations. So what the Wall Street and what the street is setting in terms of expectation, a lot of these companies are coming out on top. And you can see the resilience across the market. This is very bullish in terms of what we're anticipating for some of the even bigger stocks, like looking at NVIDIA. NVIDIA popping up here at $138. We see price targets still at $150 for NVIDIA, still saying there's room to grow. Even with the demand for the Blackwell chip, we're seeing 12-month waits, we're seeing delays. They don't care. Investors are not caring. We're seeing buying pressure that is continuing to accelerate the market. The AI stocks and the AI boom is still here. However, with that, taking that with a grain of salt, what's the risk assessment? Is that the risk for downside potential does just increase, especially with things like Palantir that are sitting at these record highs. Everybody's basically up on Palantir right now, but getting in at all-time highs, you do have, of course, a higher risk for downside potential. With that being said, though, regardless of entry points, regardless of positions, looking at the technical patterns, what we're seeing in the market, what we're seeing in terms of demand, you also have trading, the volatility that's going to come up with earnings for Palantir specifically here in the next few weeks. I think we could possibly see that gear up, possibly hitting an all-time high. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll see what happens in the market. What are your predictions? Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later. Have a wonderful week.